Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Esports for Dummies by Phill Alexander, narrated by Derek Shoales. Publisher's note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to illustrations, figures, and tables present in the print and ebook formats of this book. Limit of liability and disclaimer of warranty. The publisher and the author make no representations or warranties with respect to the accuracy or completeness of the contents of this work, and specifically disclaim all warranties, including without limitation warranties of fitness for a particular purpose. No warranty may be created or extended by sales or promotional materials. The advice and strategies contained herein may not be suitable for every situation. This work is sold with the understanding that the publisher is not engaged in rendering legal, accounting, or other professional services. If professional assistance is required, the services of a competent professional person should be sought. Neither the publisher nor the author shall be liable for damages arising herefrom. The fact that an organization or a website is referred to in this work as a citation and/or a potential source of further information does not mean that the author or the publisher endorses the information the organization or website may provide or recommendations it may make. Further, readers should be aware that internet websites listed in this work may have changed or disappeared between when this work was written and when it is read. Introduction. The last decade has belonged to esports. Whereas many industries face downturns, esports has been in a steady, almost exponential growth pattern since 2010. This past year, the League of Legends World Championship had more viewers than every sporting event but the Super Bowl. Franchises for the professional Overwatch League sold for $50 million. Esports is exploding. Yet, as a professional in the field, I am still asked almost daily, what is esports? People sometimes guess, is it like Madden? The answer is yes, kind of, but also no. Esports involves competitive gaming, but the term represents so much more. The fact that you picked up this book means you're curious. Within this book, you can learn all about the esports world. About this book. Esports is a multifaceted ecosystem of players, developers, organizations, and fans. Entering into an esports conversation can be intimidating without knowing the lay of the land. Esports for Dummies means to give you exactly that, a basic overview of how the esports world works. This book doesn't have the space to make you an expert on esports, but it gives you the roadmap to navigate the terrain, and more than enough information to speak intelligently about it. It also offers guidance for developing a career as an esports professional, for players and others in the industry. Esports for Dummies can help you lock in on your goals and know how to start developing expertise. The rest is up to you. A word of caution: if your goal is to be a professional within the esports space, you don't need to know every type of game or title, or how every organization runs. Most professionals focus on a specific game or a specific genre of games and develop their skills based on that smaller subsection. Don't feel like you need to know every single thing there is to know about esports games. Knowing too much about too many games but not having mastery over one game can make you less effective. Because esports is growing at such a staggering rate, bear in mind that some parts of this book could become outdated within months of publication. If you find that information you read about here has changed, don't feel misled. The esports world and details of various games and organizations change quickly. I was actually teaching a class on key esports titles when Fortnite was released, and I had a week to develop an entire new section of the class. Change is the nature of the beast. With this book, you discover the key information you need to know, and Google is your best friend for keeping abreast of the latest developments. Foolish assumptions. Because I get questions about esports almost every day, I try not to make too many assumptions. Here are the assumptions I do make about you. You have high-speed internet access and a computer, though I suggest computers you might buy. You know how to connect all your devices to power and displays so that they can operate. You know how to browse the internet and visit web pages. You know how to download and install games and software. You have an email account. You have access to all your passwords, email, computer, network. Icons used in this book. Occasionally you encounter icons in the margin of this book's text, and here's what those icons mean. Tip. The tip icon marks tips, duh, and shortcuts that you can use to make your esports activities easier. Remember, This icon marks information that's especially important to know. To siphon off the most important information in each chapter, just skim through these icons. Technical stuff. The technical stuff icon indicates information of a more technical nature that you can normally skip over unless you find yourself confused about what's going on or want to know more. Warning. The warning icon tells you to watch out. It marks important information that may save you headaches. Beyond the book. In addition to the book itself, this product also comes with an online cheat sheet that includes a list of terms you encounter in the esports world, some professional esports teams to know about, and tips to get started playing a game called Clash Royale right from your smartphone or tablet. To get this cheat sheet, go to www.dummies.com and enter Esports for Dummies cheat sheet in the search box. Then scroll down the page that appears. Where to go from here. Esports for Dummies is designed for you to read in any order you want. You don't have to read it in linear fashion. If you're not familiar with esports, however, I recommend that you read Chapter 1 first to find out what esports is all about. If you know that you're interested in a particular game or type of game, you might want to start with the chapters in Part 2. To learn about streaming, Chapter 14 is the place to start. If you need equipment to play and want recommendations, Chapter 2 will come in handy. Remember that esports is a big business, but it's a business based on having fun. Dive in wherever you want and see where your interests take you. Remember that you can't win if you don't play, so play on. Part 1. Getting started with esports. In this part, understand what esports are. Prepare and gather all the gear you need to play esports. Chapter 1. What are esports? In this chapter, defining esports, understanding the difference between gaming and playing esports, exploring who plays and at what levels, identifying where esports happen. The first event that could claim to be an esports competition was organized by Stuart Brand at Stanford University on October 19, 1972. The game being played was a science fiction spaceship combat game called Space War. The Stanford AI Lab was one of only a few places in the world that could have held such a competition at the time. None of the gamers played with their own machines or peripherals. Such things would have been unheard of then. The Space War game consisted of little more than white pixels on a black screen. That Space War event would barely fit any of the criteria that the industry or fans apply to esports now. It bears a passing resemblance to a fighting game LAN, local area network, tournament in which consoles or computers are set up on a private network within a venue so that competitors can play matches. But at today's esports events, the competitors still bring their own peripherals at the very least, and the games are played on commercially available machines, whether those are Xbox or PlayStation consoles or PCs. But at the core of it all, that moment at Stanford was, in the most technical of senses, an esports competition. In this chapter, you find out what the term esports refers to and explore what it takes for a game to be considered an esport. Along the way, you encounter some of the language surrounding esports and get a general sense of the history of what many call the biggest sport some people have never heard of. Defining esports. Esports is the competitive play of video games. Quick read, right? End of chapter. Now you know. If only the answer could be so simple. It's not so simple, however. The one aspect that has remained true since the origin of what people call esports is that it involves, and always will involve, players competing against each other in a video game. This aspect was true of Space War. It was true of the era of competitions to reach the highest possible score with games like Pac-Man or Donkey Kong. And it remains true today for Overwatch League and the League of Legends World Championship, more commonly referred to as Worlds by players and fans. Defining esports as competitive video gameplay no longer works, however. Nearly every video game that exists, including games like Minecraft that were not initially designed to be competitive, has players who elevate a more casual game to an ultra-competitive level. Also, not every game is an esport. Following are the 5 key criteria that determines whether a game truly qualifies as an esport. An esport has regular publisher support and updates, a massive fan base with a desire to watch competition, a clear ranking or ladder system so that players know where they stand relative to other players, frequent competitions from reputable tournament organizers, longevity as a reliable quality game. Before I elaborate on these criteria in the upcoming sections, note that all these rules have exceptions. The most obvious one is the fighting game Super Smash Bros. Melee. Released for the GameCube in November 2001, Melee has been out of print for a decade, and the GameCube console hasn't been manufactured since 2007. Nintendo has since released its popular Super Smash Bros. Ultimate game for the Nintendo Switch. But even without support from Nintendo, Smash Melee still sees regular competition. It is, however, a true rarity in that sense, and it is the only major esports game in the current landscape to go through such a long period without updates or development changes. The importance of high scores in video game history. The King of Kong. To the current generation of gamers, it might seem crazy that people once dedicated their lives to having the highest possible score on a one-player arcade video game. That culture, however, is the one that spawned the esports world we know today. If you'd like to learn more about those crazy days of record-keeping and the use of officials and pre-game hardware inspection, check out the 2007 documentary, The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. Written and directed by Seth Gordon, the movie is the real-life story of the competition between Steve Wiebe and Billy Mitchell to secure the world record high score in Donkey Kong. In addition to providing an interesting overview of esports before the internet, the movie is highly entertaining in the same spirit as reality television competition shows are. The feud between Wiebe and Mitchell is reminiscent of professional wrestling, complete with hype interviews and accusations of cheating and foul play. Regular publisher support. Prior to the mid-2000s, the marketing model for video games was relatively simple. A company would release a game and, depending on the level of interest from fans, it might patch errors. Less often, the company offered expansion package content, either by download or through the purchase of another game disc. Most often, though, the company chose to create a sequel or follow-up, or to let a game run its course. You see the more traditional spirit of creating a follow-up in sports-based games like the EA Madden NFL franchise, or 2K's NBA or WWE games. Each year, a new version of those games is released with updated rosters and some new features, but for the most part, the games themselves haven't changed dramatically from the previous year. Popular esports titles break this mold. For some examples, look at the 5 esports games based on prize pools in the first half of 2019, according to Esports Observer: Fortnite, CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, and Overwatch. Take a look at the dates of release and the most recent update for each of those games as of February 2020. As you read this, I offer a personal guarantee that each game will have been updated again. Although League of Legends is 10 years old, as of the writing of this chapter, it had been updated with fresh content just weeks before. This frequent updating is one of the most important parts of esports, because the constant updates allow the games to evolve, but also allow for tweaking and balancing, so that if a competitor finds an unexpected loophole or exploit, the company can quickly identify and correct it. Games without this level of support also decay quickly because the meta, or the current best practices, for the game grows stale and competition becomes highly predictable. Also, all the titles listed in Table 1-1 have major tournaments that are administered by their publishers. Overwatch even has its own professional league with franchise teams, as you can read more about in Chapter 4. These events, known as first-party tournaments, are critical to the success of each game. Table 1-1. Original release date and date of last update for major esports titles. Game: Fortnite. Release date: July 21, 2017. Most recent update as of February 20, 2020. February 20, 2020. Game: CSGO. Release date: August 21, 2012. Most recent update as of February 20, 2020. February 11, 2020. Game: Dota 2. Release date: July 7, 2013. Most recent update as of February 20, 2020. February 11, 2020. Game: League of Legends. Release date: October 27, 2009. Most recent update as of February 20, 2020. February 19, 2020. Game: Overwatch. Release date: May 24, 2016. Most recent update as of February 20, 2020. February 12, 2020. A large fan base. Two major metrics determine how popular a game is: how many people play it, and how many people watch other people play it. With the current status of Twitch.tv as far and away the largest live streaming service in the world, you can easily see a snapshot of how games are doing with regard to those metrics. Table 1-2 presents the same 5 games listed in Table 1-1 in the previous section to show who is playing and watching as of October 2019. Table 1-2. Twitch streamers and viewers for the 5 most popular esports. Game. Fortnite. Average number streaming the game, 6,429. Average number of viewers, 196,905. Game. CSGO. Average number streaming the game, 1,310. Average number of viewers, 52,862. Game. Dota 2. Average number streaming the game, 612. Average number of viewers, 32,784. Game. League of Legends. Average number streaming the game, 2,902. Average number of viewers, 217,359. Game. Overwatch. Average number streaming the game, 974. Average number of viewers, 16,924. To give the numbers in the table some context and perspective, at any given time during the week of October 13th to the 19th, 2019, just a bit more than 200,000 people were watching someone play League of Legends, and just a bit fewer than 200,000 people were watching someone play Fortnite. Those are strong audience numbers. Those might not seem like strong Nielsen ratings for television, but TV programs are measured by the half hour or hour, and the Twitch.tv numbers are based on the entire day. In the month of October 2019, Fortnite had a maximum peak viewership of 1,611,930. The 2018 League of Legends World Championship had 60 million viewers at one point, which exceeded the number of viewers of the 2018 BCS College Football Championship game, the Winter Olympics, and the 2018 NBA Finals combined. Added to those impressive statistics are the numbers for the player bases themselves. Table 1-3 again presents figures for the 5 top games. Table 1-3. Registered average monthly players and prize money for the 5 most popular esports in 2019. Game. Fortnite. Number of registered players, 78 million. Total prize money, $64,198,550.25. Game. CSGO. Number of registered players, 411,000. Total prize money, $14,108,415.95. Game. Dota 2. Number of registered players, 422,000. Total prize money, $43,807,673.09. Game. League of Legends. Number of registered players, 80 million. Total prize money, $6,531,481.20. Game. Overwatch. Number of registered players, 20 million. Total prize money, $9,078,716.77. For perspective, when Blizzard's World of Warcraft cracked 10 million users in 2014, that number of players was considered to be unheard of in the video game industry. The growth shown by top-tier esports games in the last 5 years is staggering, and that growth speaks to what makes those games top esports titles. The installed base makes a game viable as an esport. Newer games may find breaking into the space difficult. This difficulty is particularly true for the newest of the esports genres, the Battle Royale. Numerous games have attempted to sway a portion of that 250 million player base away from Fortnite. You can read more about Fortnite in Chapter 7. A clear ranking system. Before 1978, games didn't record scores. With the release of Space Invaders, games started to retain a tally of who had managed to score what, displaying those scores on a screen when the game wasn't in play, and cementing the early legacy of PMA in arcades across my region of central Indiana and southern Ohio, for example. High scores mattered because they were the way to know who was skilled at a specific game. After a time, though, mere scores didn't really do the job. After the internet became widely accessible and could aggregate all the scores, the tradition of walking into an arcade and looking at a screen to see who was the highest scorer on that machine paled in comparison to be able to see where your score stood against, well, everyone. Almost every competitive esports game today has some manner of publicly accessible, criteria-based ranking system that can be used to determine how good a player is relative to competition. These ladders, or ELO scores, have become so pervasive that they're a vocabulary of their own. To convey how a ladder system works, here's a look at the system that Overwatch uses. The process itself is relatively easy to understand. To play in competitive mode, a player must reach level 25. The player can do so simply by playing. Skill can help to speed the process, but anyone who is persistent will get to level 25 without major problems. After a season starts, seasons begin every 3 months and come close to mirroring the actual seasons of the year. A level 25 player must play a set of 10 competitive placement matches. Based on those placement matches, the player receives an initial score between 1 and 5,000. Those scores map to the ladder rankings shown in Table 1-4. Table 1-4. Overwatch Ladder Rankings. Rank: Bronze. Score range: 1 to 1,500. Percentage of players at rank: 8. Rank: Silver. Score range: 1,500 to 1,999. Percentage of players at rank: 21. Rank: Gold. Score range: 2,000 to 2,499. Percentage of players at rank: 32. Rank: Platinum. Score range: 2,500 to 2,999. Percentage of players at rank: 25. Rank: Diamond. Score range: 3,000 to 3,499. Percentage of players at rank: 10. Rank: Masters. Score range: 3,500 to 3,999. Percentage of players at rank: 3. Rank: Grandmaster. Score range: 4,000 to 5,000. Percentage of players at rank: 1. After players have placed, their matches throughout the season allow them to climb the ladder or fall depending on their talent, the way matches play out, and other factors. A player's rank, and more specifically, in most cases, the number that goes with the ranking, reveals how talented a player is compared to the rest of the player base. Again, figuring out how talented a player is becomes a matter of understanding how all the numbers go together. Having a rating of Grandmaster in Overwatch is quite impressive. Only 1% of players rank that high. But if you look back at the number of active players and do the math, that number means that there could be up to 400,000 players in the world who have obtained the Grandmaster rank and are ranked 4,000 or higher. Based on the numbers, if you're at the Platinum rank, you could also very easily be the best player in a rather large group because more than half the competitive population is at Gold or below. The Overwatch system represents just one of the many ladders in the esports world. But knowing how to determine what the scores mean and where you stand is a critical part of finding competition. The difference between a team of 6 with an average of 3,500 and a team of 6 with an average of 4,000 is the difference between a competitive college-level team and a potentially professional team. Frequent competitions. At the collegiate level, the teams that I help to coach play in at least 1, if not 2 or 3 leagues weekly. The college has had difficulty with our efforts to build a fortnight team because at the collegiate level, the competitions, as of 2020, just aren't frequent enough. Frequency of competition is key for 3 reasons. 1. Building a fan base and a routine for competition requires regularity. When teams don't play for weeks on end, they must rely on practice to keep their skills sharp, and they have to work double time to keep their fans engaged. 2. Establishing that a team is a thing requires regular competition and scheduled events. With traditional sports, scheduled events are a given. But imagine if your favorite basketball or football team didn't have a clear schedule that you could consult to find out when the next game was. 3. Regular competitions almost always result in playoffs or elimination rounds, and winning titles and prizes is how a team or individual player gets established. Any win is a good win, but trophies and titles build reputations and legacies. Use caution if you're looking to start a long-term career playing a particular game, but have difficulty in finding regular competitions for that game. It isn't the kiss of death, but you'll need some luck finding competitions, or you'll need to travel frequently, or even relocate to a different region to overcome the fact that games like League of Legends and Overwatch offer weekly competitions at multiple levels. Longevity. Esports is still a relatively new thing, but at the same time, competitions have been happening since the 1970s. and most of the big-name games currently being played in major competition have been around for at least 5 years. As Table 1-1 earlier in this chapter shows, 3 of the 5 most popular esports titles in the world have been around and offering regular competitions for fans since 2013. In the case of League of Legends, Riot is entering the second decade of league competition. Also, even though it has fallen from the top ranks of esports, Blizzard's World of Warcraft has been offering events for its arena player-versus-player game mode since 2005 and has offered the Mythic Dungeon International, a competition in which 2 teams of 5 players each run the same 5-player dungeon side by side with the quickest time winning since 2016. Each of the major games in the esports space has faced the launch of numerous similar games. The established titles usually win the war for competitive space, even when heavy competition seems to arise. For example, over the summer and fall of 2018, a number of Battle Royale games popped up to challenge Fortnite for its spot. One predated Fortnite, the more tactical shooter-styled PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Another was Realm Royale, a more fantasy-based battle royale from Hi-Rez Studios. The presumed juggernaut of that period was the Battle Royale Blackout mode in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. None of those games managed to dethrone Fortnite, nor did EA's more recent release, Apex Legends. The staying power of each of these games is explored in more depth in Chapter 7. Similarly, League of Legends and Dota 2 have maintained their status as top esports in spite of a large number of other MOBA games entering the space. League of Legends even managed to fend off Blizzard's Heroes of the Storm. I talk more about MOBA games in Chapter 3. The tried and true rule in esports space is that games that have been around for a while tend to stick around, and older games fade only when their platform becomes completely antiquated. Starting competition in a newly released game is always a risk, but staying on current consoles and not picking an older game in a hotly contested market can guide you toward the best new titles to try. For example, if you track Overwatch based on who made it and where the maker distributed it, you find that it was viewed as competition for CSGO, COD, and Team Fortress 2, a game that has fallen away from the mainstream. Overwatch was a slam dunk in the other 4 categories, however. It launched with a clear ladder and ranking system. Blizzard already had an established history in esports and knew how to offer the correct support as well as organized competitions, and within days of its release, Overwatch had a large and enthusiastic installed audience. By way of comparison, Nintendo's shooter Splatoon 2, which was hyped as an esports title as part of the Switch console release, had the wind of organized events and the promotional powers of Nintendo behind it coming out of the launch gate, but it didn't take off with fans, and as a result had failed to become an upper-level title. Being a gamer versus an esport player. Early in the chapter, I start with the most bare-bones definition of esports, the competitive play of video games. By this point in the chapter, the definition has taken a more layered form. Esports, as the industry and competitors understand it, is competitive play of a title with a large fan base, a clear way to understand player skill, and the backing of a publisher that frequently updates the game and is a supportive part of the tournament and competition scene. In terms of what the vast majority of people mean when they use the term esports, this is the definition to take to heart. You can even think of it as a sort of simple math equation. Competitive game with ladder, plus large fan base and player base, plus frequent competition, plus publisher support, equals esports. But wedged between the general competitive video games definition and the one I just spelled out is a massive debate in the esports realm that also needs to be acknowledged. What is the difference between a gamer and an esports player? The word gamer comes with a tremendous amount of baggage, owing in no small part to the 2014 and ongoing Gamergate debate. See the Gamergate sidebar. That baggage sometimes makes discussions of gamers and gamer culture difficult and troubling, as the stereotype emerges of a gamer as Eric Cartman from South Park, a young, white, affluent male in his parents' basement covered in cheese powder and guzzling caffeinated soda. That same stereotypical gamer is presumed to be misogynistic, homophobic, and racist, generally rude, and in almost every other way immature. The gamer stereotype isn't at all accurate, but the baggage that comes from it can be troubling in the esports world. More important, though, is the fundamental difference between a gamer, not the stereotype, but any of the many diverse people who would claim to be gamers, and an esports competitor. That difference can be summed up in a short sentence, but it has a profound impact on how each of these groups understands itself and the others. Gamers love to play games, but esports players train and practice.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?